Alright, so we are going to go to File, Load Factory Settings, and we will start modeling our car. So the first thing we are going to look at is to rename our cube. So I'll drag this here and drag it down. Here you will see all the objects that are there in the scene. So there's a lamp here, there's a cube here, there's a camera here. Okay, so I'll double click the cube and I'm going to start all the names starting with car base. Okay, this is my car base and I need to add it, give it some color. So I'll go to this option here and add some light blue color to it. Okay, and then at the bottom here I can scale it out, scale width wise. It is longer in length than in width and it has a slight height. Okay, now I can do two things to create my second cube. One is to go and create a cube again, and again I'll undo it, and then as I said, you can click on somewhere in the viewport and then create your cube. That is one way to do it. The other way to do it is in the tools. You can duplicate, and when you duplicate and move your mouse, it is going to tell you where to place it. So if you simply right click, it has been duplicated, and now you can simply move it up. And now again you go to your options to manipulate this object. So I'm going to give it some height and scale it a little bit and then move it so it is in the front, and then we will just move it down so it is inside the base. Now this object is going to be car hood. We can call it the car hood. And again the color, now you can see that we have one surface and there's that material. What we can do is click on the plus tool and you can see that there is material, and now material 1 is added. So this material 1 can have some other color. Okay, so for example, this material 1, and then if you click here you can go to material and then that material will be updated. So we want material 1. Okay, now again we need more cubes, so we can again duplicate and I'll right click and move it. This is our seat. So always remember to name your objects. If you're creating an interior scene or an exterior scene, you may have tens of hundreds of objects. So later on you will realize why it is so important to name your objects so that you can organize your scene. You should always be organized. So this is the car seat, and then we are again going to I can either scale it from here okay, or I can use the scale tool and then scale it. So there are a couple of ways you can do same thing. I want the seat to be little narrow, so sometimes it is just better to do it here so you know which angle you're doing it in. And then again, if you go to your rendering setup, we'll add one more material and then we'll change, and I need the right color seats to this one. Okay, so again I will duplicate, right click and then scale it. This is the backrest of my seat. I'm clicking on buttons here so you know which option I'm selecting, but if you learn the keyboard shortcuts, that will help you speed up your work process. So that's your car seat rest. Okay, now we will create the steering wheel, and while creating the steering wheel I'm going to teach you a few more tools here. So if you go to create a cylinder, that is what we need, and before you manipulate the cylinder, at the bottom you're going to see some options. So there are vertices. Now how many vertices you have will add more geometry to the object, and if there's more geometry then your scene becomes heavy. So you have to work with optimum level so that the desired results are good, and also the file is not very heavy. So as you progress with other projects, you will learn the importance of that and how to manage your scene with how many polygons you have per object. We need the radius to be thin because it is going to be a steering rod. Okay, and then the depth. So approximately you decide what works well for you, and once you're done then you accept it, because after that those options disappear for you to manipulate them again. Again we will add a color to this. So there are no materials, so either you can select existing ones. I want a new one for this. I'll click on new, and then just a silver color is good enough for that. Okay, and then I will rotate it further down. Okay, if you click on the scale tool, now the rod is too long, so we don't want it to be so long. So if you click on scale and drag it, so you can see this is the Z is the right axis. So here if you see Z, it becomes big and small, but if you use this tool to make it scale, okay, you can see that it is getting distorted. So what you need to do is change it from global to local, and then you can see that it is aligned. Again, if it is global, it is up, and then if it is local, it follows the angle. And now if you scale it, it's going to scale and not distort either. Okay, this was already distorted before. Let us delete this one and create a new one. Okay, so we create a cylinder, and then you rotate it. Then you move it, and now it is local. We go to global to move it, and now we want the length to be small, so we go to local, scale it, and make it short, and now you can see that it is not distorted. Yeah, and then it's not coming out from the bottom as well. So mostly use global rotation transformations, and if you want to If you have an object which is at an angle, then you will have to use the local. Okay. So the next step is to create the steering wheel. So you go to create, and then we are going to add a torus. Again, you have to be specifying where you want to create the object. Again, here you have options for the radius, so we want a thin one, and then the radius, you can decide how big your steering wheel should be. And again, you will be rotating it and then move it so it is aligned with the steering rod. Okay. Make sure that you rename steering rod, right click to select steering wheel, and then we will create a torus again, and this torus is going to be the wheel, so it is going to be thicker and bigger, and then you will have to rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, and then it has to be placed. This is the front wheel. There has to be a gap, and then we are going to add a cylinder here. So I will work in the front view, no, left view or right view. Okay, so right, and we'll make it an orthographic. All right. Oops. Front right. Okay, right orthographic. Shift and drag to pan. I wanted to zoom in here, and then we'll create a cylinder, and this cylinder is going to be the rim, so we will work with the radius accordingly. Depth is going to be very less, almost non-existent, and then it is going to be placed and rotated 90 degrees. Okay, now here we will use the wireframe mode. Okay, so this has to be much smaller, so 0.6 and 0.6 here also. Okay, so you can see it fits in. Don't spend too much time aligning it. You know what we're doing. The other important thing what I wanted to do with the cylinder was to, I will delete it. When you create a cylinder, it also asks for the cap fill, and we want to use a triangle fan. And the triangle fan, I will explain you why it is necessary. These numbers were 0.6 and 0.6. Okay, we added a modifier called wireframe. Okay, and when you add a wireframe, you get these lines, and then there is the thickness for it, so you can add the thickness to your liking. Again, this one is car wheel, this one is car rim, and then the car rim can have the same modifier as that of the steering rod, but we need a new one for steering wheel. It can be purple or something, and then we will need a new material for our car wheel, and then I'm going to make it dark. Okay, so you can see that the car rim is there. Okay, now if you create a cylinder which does not have, I cannot manipulate it. Before I manipulate it, if it is n-gon, and then if you add a wireframe modifier, you can see that now you don't get the inside lines, and that's why we use the other option, triangle, to get the inside lines here. Now you select this, shift select this, and then you go to tools and duplicate, right click and simply move them. Okay, duplicate, right click, move, duplicate, right click, move, and then you can again go to the right view, and then if you want you can then work with the alignment. Okay, and then we need one more, so duplicate, move, and then we need to rotate 90 degrees both of these. So this and these, this is going to be our stepney. Okay, so that would be placed there. We don't want to get stuck somewhere and not have a spare tire, right? Alright, so then we will add a couple of spheres. There are two types of sphere, the ISO sphere and the UV sphere. UV sphere will create square polygons for the sphere, and then the ISO sphere creates triangular faces, and generally triangular faces are not preferred. You will learn that later on when you create character model characters, why triangular faces don't work well. But right now we are going to use these square faces, UV polygon. That's going to be your headlight. Okay, tools, duplicate, and of course you'll need to rename them. Okay, you can add colors if you want, and that would complete our project. So this is the basics of Blender and how you can create a very simple geometry using Blender, and how to navigate the scene. And we are in ortho, so there you go. Keep practicing, try to model some different objects, simple ones, to practice the interface and get used to it. It will take some time initially to understand the software, and it might be frustrating, but just have patience. Create projects, save them, and once you create a project, you'll feel good about moving on to the next one and learning some more advanced tools. Bye bye.